Well, welcome everyone. My name's Tom O'Hanlon and I'm here today to talk to you about BookerLAB, the history of BookerLAB and where we think we're going, and I hope you enjoy the video. To begin with, I started playing music back in high school, and our keyboard player in our band got a Leslie, and I just was so enamored with the thing. It just amazed me the way it spun around and made the sounds that it did. So over the years I kind of stayed in tune, and I quit playing for a little while after I got married, but then I got back into it. And I wound up with a C3 Hammond organ and a Leslie 122 that I have hacked on and rebuilt and built and done several modifications to over the years. So as I was facing retirement with my company C-Level Systems, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I was enjoying playing music and still being a part of the whole music scene. And so I looked at the Leslie and got talking with some friends of mine and realized that there were some parts that weren't made anymore, and there were some parts you could only buy on eBay. So we started talking and said, well, what if we could make motors? Or what if we could build a new motor system that would be more reliable or not require the same type of alignment and things like that. So that was our first product, and some of you may remember we showed it last year at the 2018 NAMM show in California. It was very popular. Everybody was very interested in what we were doing, but we got back to the lab and the things still weren't 100.0% on the motor system. So we're looking at new motor technologies constantly. We could release what we have, and yeah, it spins the rotors at a certain RPM like it's supposed to, but as I've learned, and I've got such great respect for Don Leslie and Lauren Hammond, the things they invented, first of all, were very complicated at the time. They may seem simple now, electromechanical devices, but they were very, very complicated. And what they did so elegantly with, as Einstein said, everything should be as simple as it can be, but not any simpler. And so when you look at some of these things, you're like, well, that doesn't really look that complicated. But trying to emulate what those two motors do is not a trivial task, as we found out. We've worked through some different motor technologies. We're looking at brushless motors now, and we're also looking at some AC motors. The problem with these things is you have to kind of get in bed with one technology and develop it to a certain point to realize that either is or is not going to be promising for the future, and that all takes time. So bear with us. We hope to have a motor system available real soon, and I think you'll like it when you do. I know you will, because if we like it, we're sure you will. So the other type of products that we're looking at, and we're going to talk about in a later video today, will be the vintage motor controller. We call it the VMC3, and the reason it's a 3 is because it's third generation as far as we're concerned, even though the first and second generations never got released. We just like to roll the numbers so we can see the improvements and keep track of what the feature sets are. So VMC, Vintage Motor Controller, allows you to operate independently the upper and lower motors. It allows you to do stop, which means you can tune a guitar or another type of instrument to the Hammond, which is hard to do when the Leslie's spinning because of the Doppler shift and things like that. Besides stop, we support something new for us anyway, and new for any kind of automation equipment, called Memphis mode. And Memphis mode, I guess, was discovered either in Memphis by some Memphis players or Memphis studio musicians or something. But bottom line is they would unplug the lower rotors on the Leslie, the fast and slow motor. So what that would result in would be all the bass notes would not have the Leslie, modulation or Doppler shift and tremolo and vibrato that we're used to, whereas the upper one would. Why would you want that? Well, I didn't realize it until I saw Steve Winwood playing a Hammond, and he was using the bass pedals because he didn't have a bass player. Well, you wouldn't want your bass notes to be modulated the same way a Leslie would for the upper notes. So they invented Memphis mode, and our new box allows you to hit a switch or hit a button on your MIDI controller, and it will turn the Leslie into Memphis mode, which means the lowers stop turning. So you can also do fast and slow with MIDI over the MIDI connection, and that allows you, which we'll show you later, to hook up keyboards like Nords or Viscounts, which you can see behind me in this video. And we're going to show you how to control a Leslie with its own built-in half moon switch using MIDI to send the rotor speed and stop commands. That's our vintage motor product. We've also got a product called the LBB2, which stands for Leslie Breakout Box. We're not real inventive on names. We do call it Fusion only because it fuses some different Leslie interfaces that in the past were a problem. The LBB2 will allow you to interface a 122 and a 147 at the same time. Why would you want to do that? Well, many people have one of each. Sometimes if one breaks and you have the other, you can't really use it because you're wired for the one. So this interface will allow you to mix and match. You can use multiple Leslies. That provides the stop function, And again, it's just greater connectivity, greater ease, ease your burden when you're on the road. If something were to break, we want to have tools that will let you diagnose or fix it or patch around it at least till the end of the gig, and then you can get the real fix in place. So that's BookerLAB in a nutshell. We also intend to be like a portal for interesting information. If you've seen our site already on Facebook, we're posting interesting music news, interesting things about the Leslie or the Hammond, some patent information and some historical information. And then if we see an artist who's done something significant using like a Hammond or a Leslie or some significant technology or something, we'll publish that too. So we just want to be a reference site for maintaining, fixing, building your own, experimenting, and keeping basically the vintage Leslie alive.